What is going on, guys? So I promised you in the last video I'd do a quick little update of the aquariums. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I will show you what's going on. If you'll remember, back in the day, I had started a planted aquarium in the 55-gallon just to see how it would go, because I've never dealt with live plants before. So I'll show you that, how it's been going. I want to say it's been roughly 9 months to a year ago that I did that. You'll have to look back at the other videos to see how long ago it was. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to touch on a subject that I think it's something that needs to be said about the hobby, about all the information out there. So I will whip around and get some pictures of the aquariums, show you what I got going on, and then we'll have that discussion. So if you're just now tuning into this channel, I am not an expert. I don't have a store, anything like that. I have koi ponds and I have aquariums. I enjoy fish. I did it years and years ago, and then I just wasn't involved in the hobby. I've always enjoyed fish, though. I've always enjoyed going to aquariums, big ones, pet stores, the whole nine. And when I moved out of the region I was in, I decided during COVID to get a pond built. And as you'll see in some past videos, that's exploded into something bigger. And then started up the aquariums again. And ended up with, I think I started with a little 29 that I actually resealed that one. Took out all the old silicone, put new silicone in it, painted the trim, repainted the trim on it. And I'll eventually use that tank for something, but I don't know what yet. And then a 55-gallon and a 125-gallon. So I'll get this whipped around quick and show you what's going on with those aquariums, and then we'll be back. All right, gang. Well, there's the 55. This is the one that I had planted at first. This chunk here has been trimmed. This one's had little trimming, but not a ton. This is the 55-gallon. I got cherry barbs in there, a few albino tiger barbs, and then some tiger barbs. The Siamese, I also have some extra lighting, but I have the extra lighting off in this one currently because I am getting a little bit of an algae bloom, as you can see. Since I've had the extra lighting off, it has slowed down considerably. But this tank, I mean, it took off. It's Valsinaria that's in there, and it's filled in wonderfully. I have taken out some cuttings from here and planted them into the 125, but this one's just filling in real good. Really, really good. I actually have some babies. I mean, I highly doubt we'll be able to see them because they are microscopic, but I do have some babies in here. And then I have the 125 over here, and also I have extra lighting, as you see. Not running all of it, but I am just trying to get some more plant growth. This one has not grown near as fast as this one has, but I think that has to do with that's more of a gravel substrate, and that's more of a sand. And then there's this. So what I'm doing on this one, this is just an experiment. You'll notice there's no fish. This was a quarantine tank for a sick fish I had. He came out of it, and I put him back in the tank, and he only made it about a week. But right now, I only have 2 snails in here, 2 pest snails. There's one of them right there on that tree branch. And what I'm doing here is I am on purpose not changing water in this aquarium at all. I'm still doing water tests. I put a piece of driftwood in there just to get it pre-soaked, so when I do decide to use it, it's ready to go. And if I ever do decide to use this aquarium, obviously I'll change the water out. But what I'm doing is I'm just seeing like what actually will happen to the water. No substrate in, just nothing at all. What will happen to the water? What will the parameters look like in 3 months of just not touching this? I did add a little bit of calcium rock in there for the snails, just to keep them from, the shell from deteriorating. So that's what this aquarium is. Literally just an experiment. No fish, nobody's being tortured. So yeah, that's what we got going on there. And then again, here's the 125. Got some driftwood in there. Got some rainbows, some more tiger barbs. Got a Bayless shark in there. Rainbows are really showing color well. And then again, the planting, it's doing okay. This Amazon sword has done really well. And the valve's doing okay. I got some money wort in there. Got some Anubias in there. Just planted those a couple weeks ago. And again, they're doing real well. Fish are doing good. Everything's good. So yeah. All right, guys. So another thing I've done with the aquariums down here is I've made a really easy change water system. If you'll see that PVC that's hanging down in the corner there, there's a valve on the end. I hook a hose up to it, open that valve, and start siphoning water into the floor drain in the basement. And then it's hard to see, but then I plumbed a 1/4 inch water line to this one and to the 55. It's all running through a filtration system, so it takes out all the chlorine. There is ammonia left over afterwards, but it's in very small amounts, and the beneficial bacteria in the plants consume it before it does anything bad to the fish. And I also have a trickle in, trickle out in the pond. So the reason I bring those things up is there's, for anybody, and again, to be clear, I am not a scientist, a marine biologist. I'm not a store owner, just someone that enjoys the hobby. And one thing, two things, three things I do believe need to be said. There is no blueprint on how to have a successful aquarium. There's so many variables involved. Your source water, what you have in the aquarium as far as fish goes, substrate, what kind of filtration, what kind of plants, how deep your substrate is. There's just so many variables. So the one thing that if you are wanting to get into this hobby, the one thing that you absolutely have to do is be involved. And what I mean by that is pay attention to your fish, see how your fish respond and act, see how your plants respond and act, and keep a close eye on your water for your first few months of having an aquarium or a pond. And I recommend spending $100 or $150. Now, this is if you're serious about the hobby. If you're just gonna have a small tank with a few fish in it, just do your water changes and treat your water, everything should be fine. If you're looking to provide the best environment for your fish, having good, consistent parameters with your water, pay attention. When you change your water, having that monitor, that consistent monitor on your water, will tell you how your pH is changing while you're doing a water change. So then that'll tell you, is it a better idea to do a larger volume of water one time every few weeks? Or is it better to do multiple smaller water changes? And the trickle in, trickle out, in my opinion, is the absolute best route to go, because you're adding fresh water consistently in smaller doses. So you're going to prevent more dramatic swings in all the different parameters that are involved in water. So that's why I'm set up to where I take out my couple of gallons, I turn my valves on, and it picks it, or it fills it back up. We're good to go. We're not throwing our parameters out of whack. I'm not causing a pH swing, because again, my water runs in the high 9s. Someone 3 blocks down the road, their water might be 7s. So again, there's no clear-cut answer to what the best way to go about raising fish or koi or whatever you're doing as far as aquariums or aquatic life goes. There is no clean-cut true answer. Now you get into the more exotic fish, obviously that changes. We're talking just straight freshwater fish, tropical, with a heater where the water's got to be in those 70s to 80s. We're talking just the run-of-mill fish. If you try to adapt your way of fish keeping to anybody else's, that's including me, you're not going to enjoy the hobby as much. And what I mean by that is, you're going to watch a video and a guy's going to tell you your pH has got to be 7. So you run out, you buy a test kit, you check your pH, you're at 7.6, 7.8, you start thinking, what do I got to do to get my parameter down? And you end up chasing this pH. And when you're doing it, you're causing so many dramatic swings in the pH that's very hard on the fish. So don't do that. Try to add natural ways to buffer your water naturally, through oyster shells, through moss, through driftwood, because it'll leach out some acid. So if you're running, not acid, but acidic tannins, it will help to naturally stabilize your water. Don't use chemicals. Try not to use chemicals. And everything will eventually level out if you let nature run its course. Now, I'm not saying just neglect it and let it become a cesspool like I'm doing with the 10-gallon, just experimenting. But I'm saying you observing and taking notes and making the correct changes will eventually yield you a good situation with your fish. Because I say this is what I have to do, and that doesn't mean it pertains to you, because your water could be different. Your environment can be different. Different fish, different temperature requirements. Some fish want faster current. Some don't want any current at all. And all of that plays in to your aquarium or your pond, every bit of it. So again, it's very specific to you, your aquarium or pond. Very specific. What works for you may not work for the next guy, and vice versa. So if you want to truly enjoy the hobby, first thing is, I recommend study the water. Study what water does, how water works in a lake or a stream, and try to replicate that as best you can. The water in nature, the volume is astronomical. Plus, you've got all the soil that does filtration. Plus, you've got leaves that fall in. There's so many things that happen in water, but yet fish still survive. So they don't have a big old canister filter, hang-on back filter, or whatever that does all that. Okay? It's done by nature. You can't have all of that in a house, in an aquarium, so you try to replicate it whichever way works. It doesn't have to be this filter. It doesn't have to be this substrate. It doesn't have to be a certain kind of wood, but you do have to pay attention if you add certain things on how it changes your water. The fish are going to be just fine. It's all about the water, how much you feed, how often you feed, what kind of, algae. Like I said, I have algae going on in that aquarium there. Eventually, if I didn't feed those fish at all ever, they'll start nibbling on that algae because it's a source of nutrients. They will, because they survive. Most fish are omnivores, you know that. So again, the point, excuse me, the point of my rant is most channels are just giving you advice. They're just saying, hey, this is what works for me. This is what works for this guy. I've tried this and it didn't work, so don't do that. But there's no true clear-cut answer on the best way to have an aquarium or a pond. The most important thing is making sure you're paying attention to what your water is doing. The fish will be just fine. So I just wanted, like I said, to jump on. Tons of great content out there. Tons of them. And I honestly believe The ones you should listen to the most are the ones that will tell you, this works for me. They're not telling you, don't do this or do this. Obviously, some common sense comes into play. You know, don't pour soda or something. I'm talking like a Pepsi or a Coke into your aquarium. You know, don't spray cleaners into your aquarium. Common sense stuff. But outside of that, again, everybody's aquarium is going to run differently. Everybody's pond is going to run differently. So if you're looking at getting into the hobby, the first thing I think you should do is study water and the characteristics of water. GH, KH, pH, and how it works. The perfect levels only exist for a while. Even RO water, you put RO water into an aquarium, the properties of that water are going to change almost instantly. It's just giving you a very consistent baseline to start with. But it's going to change almost instantly when you add it to an aquarium. So I hope some of that rambling made sense to you guys. I really do. But again, 3 to 4 years now into this second phase of the hobby. And the one thing that I've learned the most is, in a lot of cases, less is more. Get rid of the waste out of your system by cleaning the filters regularly, and the rest will take care of itself. And I truly believe that. And with like that aquarium there, the canister filter I change, and when every time I change it, it's really not that dirty. But like the hang on back filter and the intake filter for the hang on back filter, I take those out every couple of weeks, get them good and clean, put them back in there, top it off with fresh water, and it is running amazingly. I've had 0 issues with that aquarium. And as you'll remember, about a year ago, I had quite a few issues with this one. But since I basically stripped it all the way back down, converted it over to more of a, like I said, a planted style. There's nothing fake in this aquarium anymore. All the rocks are real, all the plants are real, the sand is real, the gravel's real. Everything in there is real. And then another thing, the last thing I want to talk about is, it's okay, and I'm sure someone will argue this point, it's okay to have a little rubbish, whether it be waste, whether it be dead plant leaves. It's okay to have that on the bottom of your aquarium, because that will break down and it will get into the substrate, and then it'll break down further and it will feed the roots of your plants, feed the plants, and it's going to be okay. Eventually it'll get broke down to the point where it's totally harmless. Now, letting it build up with inches of it, no, that's not a good idea. But it doesn't have to be pristine. If your aquarium is established, it will do what it's supposed to do. So that's all I got, guys. Like I said, I just wanted to jump on here and hope and pray that both parties, the I never do water change party and the you've got to do something with your aquarium or your pond every 2 days, I hope those two parties can kind of come to a common ground someday. Because again, from observation, it seems like the folks that are messing with their setups the most have the most issues. The folks that seem to kind of let nature take its course seem to have the least problems. And again, that's an observation through watching videos, through my personal experience, and from other people I've talked to that are in the hobby. So again, agree or disagree, feel free to throw a comment in the old comment section if you agree or disagree. But yeah, like I said, guys, that's all I got for this one. And as always, keep on improving, keep on investing. We'll see you guys on the next video. Later.